All right, so I'm gonna spray here with olive oil. We're gonna do our vegetables first. I'm gonna chop them. We're gonna roast the parsnips and the carrots, and the Brussels we're gonna saute in a pan because we're using both racks of our oven, one for the pork chops and one for the parsnips and carrots, so we won't really have a whole lot of room. So we got 2 pans here and 2 pans for the oven. So just give everything a nice generous coat of oil. I'm going to use this one for my parsnips and carrots because I'm eventually going to want to cover this with aluminum foil for the end so they get nice and soft without getting dried out. And of course, you don't have to right now, but just go ahead and oil all these pans up. And now we're going to chop.
Alright guys, so don't be gross. Wash your carrots. You wash your hands first and you get the water all nice and warm. And all you're trying to do is just kind of wash off any dirt or debris that might have been left on them from harvest. It's pretty simple, but very, very important.
Alright, so we got our parsnips here. As you can see, the parsnip is shaped a little bit differently than the carrot. The carrot's pretty evenly sized all the way down from the parsnip. So all that means is this is going to be a little bit more work to get even slices. But basically, I'm going to try going just making basically like little fries, like small carrot and parsnip fries. So I'm going to remove the top end of the carrot and the bottom end because they kind of got dried out. And I'm just going to cut them, you know, every 3 inches or so. And then quarter them, top and bottom, just like that. There might be a better way to do this, to chop them. If you know of a better way,
Leave it in the comments.
yeah, make your own freaking video.
Okay, so we're going to prep our Brussels sprouts for sauteing. What we're going to do is we're going to cut them in half and then take those halves and cut those in half. So we're just quartering our Brussels sprouts. Real simple, real easy, only takes a little bit of time. Cut it in half, cut it in a quarter.
So basically the same thing we're doing with the carrots. All right, so for the parsnips, I'm gonna remove, just like the carrot, I remove the top, and that piece was kind of ugly, so I took a little bit more. So I'm gonna do the same thing, you know, a few inches, but when I get to like the big part right here, the only difference is I'm just, instead of, you know, like this one right here, skinny end, I'll probably just cut this once in half, and this one I'll quarter. I'll go half, and then half again. But for the big one, I'm just gonna go 2 cuts. All right, so they're in the pan. I was only able to do 1 pound of carrots and 1 pound of parsnips before I ran out of room. You don't want to overcrowd your pan. So I'm just gonna give it a generous coating of oil and liberal salting. All right, all our Brussels are chopped. So now we're just gonna saute them. We put the oil in the pan, and now we're just gonna throw them in there. A little bit of garlic salt, a little bit of regular salt, and we're good to go. All right, so for our rub for the sweet, spicy chicken that we're gonna do, we're gonna use those tenderloins, so it's gonna be like a chicken tender. But the recipe calls for a 1/4 cup. I'm probably gonna go a little less than a 1/4 cup. And I don't wanna pack it in, but brown sugar is pretty heavily packed anyway. And then we're just gonna do 1/4 teaspoon. I'm gonna do more, because I don't know if this is a teaspoon, but, and then 1/4 of everything. Wow. Paprika.
You can also use the guesstimation pour.
You can do that too.
And it won't hurt a bit.
And then 1/4 tablespoon of salt. And everything's better with freshly cracked brown pepper. So I'm just going to use my tiny spoon here just to kind of give everything mixed together and incorporated, I think is a chef term. So lumps won't break up. Then after that, it's pretty simple. We're just going to take our chicken, throw it in the bowl. So I got all the chicken in the seasoning and the rub, basically like a barbecue rub. I'll throw the lid on it and I'm just gonna toss it all around. Until it all gets coated. Okay. All right, so we got our oil pan, our chicken is coated. Of course, the recipe is for 1.5 pounds of beef or meat, but we did 2 pounds of chicken tenders, so it's a little thinner, but you know, we are using brown sugar, so you're getting away with that. But then basically I'm just gonna lay them all on the pan, try to squeeze them all in. I got it on medium heat, right? So you don't wanna cook chicken on high heat or you'll dry it out, burn it, and it won't be that good. So
cook it on medium or a little less than medium.
yeah.
Slower's better.
Low and slow. All right, so we got our oven on 350 and we're gonna cook our pork chops first, and then when they're done, we'll put our parsnips on there because the parsnips are gonna take about 40 minutes to cook. Hopefully these pork chops won't take that long, but 350. And then we're gonna raise the temperature for the parsnips. So for the pork chops, I'm just gonna use, you know, whatever your favorite seasoning is. I like this Everglades heat rub. It's 0 calories, there's no sugar in it, so we're kind of skipping, you know, all that stuff like what we did for the chicken. But I'm just gonna season these the easy way, which is by hand. So I'm keeping a dry hand and a wet hand, just like the bakers do when they do all that bread baking. Then I'm just gonna lay them in the pan. Season one side, season the other, and throw in the pan.
Okay. All right, guys, when you're cooking your Brussels sprouts, all you're gonna do is just kind of push them around, make sure they don't get too done on one side. And you're just gonna cook these and then try one every now and then until they're tender enough, until they're feeling the way you like them. Guys, we just wanna remind you, turn your chicken, don't burn it.
All right, so I was gonna wait to put the parsnips in so I could turn the temp up on the oven. As you can see, we're still roasting or you know, cooking those pork chops in the oven at 350. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cover these and let them cook in there with the pork chops. I figure they'll get soft, and then I'll stir them around, take the top off, you know, when the pork chops are done, and then let the move them to the top rack so they can get nice and browned and everything on the side. All right, so our chicken is getting pretty golden brown. That sugar started to caramelize, and Matt doesn't like to do it, but I like to cover my Brussels a little bit after I get them that char. That way that steam in there kind of softens them up a little bit. But if you like them crunchier, you don't have to use the lid on the pan, but if you like them softer, covering them up for like 5 to 10 minutes is really going to help soften them up for you. And we got hand-sized protein, and more than half of our plate is vegetables. So we're thumbs up for that meal. All right, so pork chops have been cooking for like 20 minutes or so, and they're looking pretty well done. So if you remember, we put our parsnips in at 350 just because we're cool like that. So now I'm just gonna give them a stir because our pork chops are done. Just gonna give them a stir, take the top off, and then crank the heat up in the oven and see if we can get these things brown. Carrots and parsnips, left them in the oven for another 15 to 20 minutes, but if you can see, maybe I can do this. They're very, very soft, very tender. I've already eaten one. They're delicious. Over here we got all of our stuff. So we got pork chops, chicken, and Brussels, and we got the carrots prepped. So we're ready to go for the week.